All right. I had to go to the bank yesterday morning. I was riding around. I had my yellow lab in the car with me. If you've ever had a yellow lab or a dog similar to that, I said to her, I'm just going to run into the bank. I won't be 2 minutes. There's nobody here. I just have to do this deposit. I had opened all the windows. She was in a good shady spot. And you would have thought that I was leaving her forever. She was like, oh, I can't believe you're leaving me. How could you leave me? You love me so much. You're leaving, no. And she sprawls out and lays flat on the back seat of the car and goes into mourning. Oh, and I'm backing away from the car and I'm saying, stay, I'll be right back. Just stay. And this young girl pulls into the spot right next to me and she sees me going, stay. And she's a pretty little blonde thing. She's just adorable. And she rolls down her window and she says, have you tried just putting it in park? All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit today, just a little bit. I realize it is a sea of possibility, but I'm going to talk just a little bit about relationships because I think everybody is in relationships. Here on earth, you cannot not be in relationship. I go to the bank, I'm in relationship with people. I go to the dry cleaners, I'm in relationship with people. I work, I'm in relationship with people. I'm driving, I may not be with anyone else in the car, at least anyone else human, but I'm in relationship with other people. We cannot not relate. So I think that this is we all involve ourselves with other people. So this is the arena though that really I think allows us to learn and to love. And I think it's a huge topic. I could take a year and just talk about this, but I've often talked with couples before I do their wedding. And one of the things that I say, and I think this is true for all of our relationships. It's true for our friendships, our work relationships. It's certainly true for our romantic relationships, that there always has to be respect, appreciation, and kindness. I think that's the ground of being. Because other things will come and go in the relationship over time, but respect and appreciation and kindness are absolutely essential. Now, we teach that every soul is on a journey. And so because every soul is on its own journey, we are all different. And so because we're all different, it's easy to have a little conflict, that we run into people and they don't see things the exact same way we do. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? They don't do things exactly the way we do them. Because God made us all individuals, that everyone is a unique expression of the one. So there was a saying I used to hear often when I was a kid, and it's that, well, that's what makes horse races. And so if you have to explain it, I guess I didn't say it very well. But the reason horses race is because they're all different, right? That's what makes horse races. So we're all different. And I think it takes a level of spiritual development and maturity to say, I have what it takes within me to get along. I can get along with lots of different people is what we're after. Because on a planet with 7 billion people, probably most are not going to do everything exactly like you. It would be a very boring world, wouldn't it? It takes a level of spiritual development and maturity to be able to apologize and to forgive and to actually recognize very, very honestly that what's going on here, this is my stuff. This is my stuff. There's a level where it has nothing to do with them. This is my stuff. So in A Course in Miracles, one of the pieces that I've always loved, and this speaks to me all the time, it says, would you rather be right or happy? And I would. I would like to be right because if I were right, I'd be happy. I just know. But I suggest that since we're on this spiritual journey together, I suggest that we really go for happy. That I have within me the ability to make the choices that will lead to my happiness. So have you noticed, though? Have you noticed how incredibly different some people are than you? Isn't that amazing? I mean, they are just so different, and yet we walk on the face of the earth together. So it's not a mistake that we have people who are different than us in our life, although I think sometimes we think it is. That it's a mistake that they have crossed my path. No, it's not. Not in the big cosmic design of things. In the big picture, I think we actually need each other because this is how we are healed. This is how we are grown. People love to make a big deal out of a small deal. Have you noticed that? And I think, we have to recognize that some things are just, like the way I like to say it is, this is just not the hill I want to die on today. That this is just not that big a deal. And people think that just because something crops up in a relationship with a friend or with their loved one, that this must mean it's over. That this must mean it's over. We're done. I better start getting boxes from the grocery store. I guess I'm moving out, or they're moving out. People love to make a big deal out of a small deal. And I'm here to tell you, it's just not worth it. And also that in metaphysics, it's also incorrect. That we have to own that deal. We have to own it. I'd been to visit a woman who had surgery. I went to her home, and she was sitting up, and her husband was kind of waiting on her. And he wasn't really doing it right. According to her, he wasn't doing it right. And so when he was out of the room, he was getting stuff for us in the kitchen. And when he was out of the room, she leaned over to me and she said, he's not very good in the kitchen. And she said, but he has so many other good qualities. I choose to focus on those instead. And I thought, this is a key. This is a key because, as we've talked about, it takes no talent to find what's wrong in the situation. But it does take some ability, some spiritual discernment to be able to see what's right with other people. He has so many other good qualities. I choose to focus on those instead. So I know that secretly, deep down, we can tell the truth. We're in church. We would like other people to change, wouldn't we? Yeah, really we would. We're kind of holding out for that. And often we think that we are clever enough that we can change them. Yeah, they won't know it. I'm just going to go about it real subtly, but I'm going to get them to change. And then they'll really be terrific. Now, that has not proved to be a very successful strategy for most of us, has it? No, it hasn't. For several reasons, I think. I think that what you resist in other people really persists. Yes. I don't think that we change because we are criticized. Has that ever worked with you? That somebody criticized you enough that you finally changed? So then don't try that with other people. I think the implicit message when we're letting people know you need to change, what's really implied in that is that you are not okay the way you are. And if you continue to be the way you are, I will withdraw my love from you. So you had best shape up, bucko. Yeah, nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. It never feels good. Now, people show us who they are. Really, they do. People show us who they are. In cards, it's like when somebody shows you your hand. It shows you their hand, right? We just pretend not to see. You've done it. I've done it. We've all done it. We pretend not to see what people are showing us about themselves. And so because we pretend not to see it, we then feel totally justified later in making them wrong for it. Isn't that a fun little game? Yeah, sure, absolutely. So here's the big one. Here's a really big one. That people may push your buttons, right? And we all have those people, don't we? We have people who really, really know how to push our buttons. But they did not install them. Okay? That's the thing. They may push our button, but they did not install the button. So we say, well, they upset me. That's my issue. They just, they should be so sensitive to my issue. That's the one thing I can't stand. They did not install that button. That's your button. And so asking them to be sensitive to your issue and dance around it leaves you completely unhealed. Do you see that? Nothing gets raised up, nothing gets healed, nothing gets forgiven, nothing gets released. It's like, oh, you're such damaged goods. Let's all just bow to your damage. Oh, you have a past. Let's never bring that up. Let's never do that. Let's never say this. Do you see how crazy that is? The reason Spirit brings us together ultimately is so that there can be healing, so that we can ultimately become more free, not to coddle each other in our error beliefs. That's not why Spirit brings us together. I won't bring up your issues, you won't bring up my issues, and we can live happily in blissful denial forever together. Sounds good and healthy, doesn't it? Yeah. Right? So people may push our buttons, but they did not install them. And so when we say, well, he said such and such, she said such and such, and that makes me feel, and you fill in the blank. They make me feel bad. They make me feel unloved. They make me feel stupid. They make me feel not enough. Nobody can make you feel anything about yourself without your consent. Just be big, suck it up, right? So if you feel that, they've pressed the button, but it's your button. And when are you going to do something about that button? When you stop believing that you're stupid, and when you stop believing that you're not enough, and when you stop believing that stuff about you, people will do whatever they do, and they will not get the rise out of you. Does this make sense? This is really, really how it works. So yes, yes, it's your issue. So why don't you get healed? It's your issue. Why don't you get healed rather than keep looking for people who don't touch on your issue? You say, well, I'm not the problem. You don't know. If you just knew the people I had in my life, you would understand that they're the problem. To which the universe says, not me, but the entire universe says, au contraire, mon ami, okay? Because here is the big key to understanding relationships. This is the big key. If you're going to write something down, this is what I want you to write down today. If somebody next to you is nodding off, just wake them for this moment, okay? Because this is what they're going to want later. It is never about the other person. Really, it's never about the other person. Those of you who've just been yanked out of your body for your own survival, like, oh my God, I can't hear that. Right? It is never, ever, ever about the other person. I know that makes us crazy, that we hate that stuff. They say, you don't understand, they are the problem. No, you don't understand. They are a mirror of your unhealed self. They are holding the mirror up, showing you where you believe something that is not the truth that God created about you. And you don't want to heal your stuff, so you're projecting the problem onto them. No, not me. They're the problem. You're just holding up the mirror. And that's why you're unhappy. Tell the truth. You want to control, dominate, and manipulate other people. We all do. We all want ultimate power. At least I like to think so. All right, so all right, that may be a little extreme. But you like to control, right? We like to try to get in there and control other people. How's that worked for you so far? Not so good, huh? I know. Because, do you like it when other people try to control you? No, not so much. So look, it's fantasy that your relationships should be completely conflict-free. That's a fantasy. I think it starts from my generation, it started when we were young. We watched Ozzie and Harriet, and we watched Leave It to Beaver. And we saw this fantasy. These were not real people. These were not real people, right? They were fabrications. My mother never twirled around the kitchen with a string of pearls and a cake. And my parents never resolved conflicts like Ward and June did. Quietly, sensibly, in low tones. I'm sorry, those were aliens. Those were not people in the neighborhood I grew up in. You know, so it's fantasy to think that if you met the right person, all would always be perfect. I think that's nonsense. I think that that's what we've been fed. It's an illusory ideal that of perfect relationship, whether it's in family or with friends or lovers or children or co-workers. And I think that's the dangerous road of impossible expectations is what it is. So here's a bigger truth, right? This is just a bigger truth because I've been thinking about it. I think, how do I draw a bigger circle for myself around this? And the bigger circle is that life is filled with opportunities to solve what look to be challenges or problems. Life is filled with opportunities. There will be challenges on the road ahead. And that's not a bad thing, because that's how we grow, that's how we develop. And people are great problem solvers, aren't you? If you look at the problems you've had in your life thus far, you have solved gazillions of problems. Things that were a problem 1 minute, later on were not a problem. You got through them, you got on the other side. You're a great problem solver. People are great problem solvers. And I think this is especially true if we know that we are connected to an infinite knowingness, that we are connected to something greater that absolutely knows. So what Ernest Holmes used to say to people, the founder of our church, is that he would say, I humanly do not know what you are supposed to do. I don't know. But I know that there is a principle and a power and a presence within you that does know. And if you will turn to it with regularity, it will reveal to you exactly what you need to know. There's a solution to every problem. There's every challenge we have, there's already something within us that knows how we are to respond to that. So the other bigger truth is that, yes, relationships are often difficult, but that doesn't mean it isn't a good relationship. See, people always want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Oh, we're having a challenge, it must be over. Oh, we're having a bad day, this must be the beginning of the end. And it's like, no, it's just, relationships often have periods where they're difficult. You're a soul that's evolving, and your friend or coworker or lover is a soul that's evolving. Nobody showed up here as a completely finished product. Isn't that amazing? Right? That people have often said to me, well, I just don't think it should be this hard. And doesn't that sound reasonable to the human personality? It just shouldn't be this hard. That's right. The prince should come and load you into a big pumpkin and carry you off, I mean, what are we thinking? That's pure fantasy, that we've all come together to heal. We've all come together to grow. And yes, we come together to be happy, and we come together to be joyful, and we come together to have each other's back and be supportive, and all of those things. But one of the things I know about growth is that growth is often messy, isn't it? If you think about the growth you've done, just say in the last year or two, there have been some messy periods in that growth. Yeah? And if you've had some healing in your life, healing sometimes is very uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to really look within and see what's inside of us, what we're believing that's not serving us, or how we've acted in the past. It's really uncomfortable. But things worth having, like good relationships, take work. Really, they do. It's like your health. If you have good health, it takes work to maintain good health, doesn't it? Because after a certain age, all the grace is gone. As my father-in-law always reminds me, gravity will get you too, son. That when you're really young, there's an enormous amount of grace with your health. You can work for 3 days and never sleep and just drink black coffee for days on end, and you can just keep going when you're young, And now I watch The Late Show, and the next day it's like, oh my God, right? So it takes work to have good health, right? If you have a home, I don't care, if you have a home, it takes work to have a home. Because a home always requires work. If you have a garden, a garden isn't something you work on 1 day a year. It's something that requires attention all the time. Your career requires work all the time. A relationship is no different. So if you think about the very best relationships you have in your life, the best friendships, the best family relationships you have, Think about the very best relationships you have in your life right now, and they regularly require some of the best that is within you, don't they? That's why they are the best relationships in your life, because you consistently show up with some of the best that's within you. You don't just give those really significant relationships crumbs, because that is not enough to nourish a relationship over time. The relationships that are most important to us thrive because we give them some of our best attention. Right? We give them our best attention on a consistent basis. And yes, sometimes we come together with someone, and it's for a period of time. I was talking with my sister the other night. My sister has been married 3 times, and she feels like this time she's really got it right for her. And so she was saying, the first time I got married, and she was talking about what she really learned out of that relationship, and it was great. It was like a really great discussion because she really did learn stuff about herself in that relationship. And then some years later, she was married again a few years later, and she learned a tremendous amount of other stuff about herself, but completely different stuff from that first marriage. And she said, and now in the marriage she's in, where she's, thank you God, very happy, she's really, really happy in this, and he's a great guy, and they seem really, really good together. She says, I couldn't have this. She has the insight to see, I couldn't have this if I hadn't done that and then done that, because I did like all this learning on those other people. Which I thought was great to recognize that. That like I learned all over them, so that now I could be here, that there was a level of healing that she needed to have within herself to be able to have what she has today. And so I realized that, often, that can be a challenge. But hey, if there's no challenge, there's no growth. So I think that a way to look at it is like our commitment to be friends is there. Our commitment to be partners is there. And if something comes up, we're not going to run. So let's just develop the skills to get through this, to learn how to handle this. And I realize most of us have not had good models of this. Most of us didn't see Ward and June Cleaver solving problems. Frankly, I don't know how they got anything done without slamming doors and a little yelling, but that's me. That's just me, So I want to share another, what I would say is a big, hairy truth this morning, and it's that a relationship cannot do for you what you are unwilling or unable to do for yourself. I know, isn't that just ugly? It's just a big, ugly, hairy truth. That a relationship cannot do for you what you are unwilling or unable to do for yourself. And that's across the boards. Friends, co-workers, romantic relationships. Now, on earth, we can't exist without relationships. There's 7 billion people on the earth, and we're bumping into them all the time. But I also think that the idea of just having a significant relationship cannot be the sole purpose of your existence either. Because I think that's a setup for failure. See, I think healthy relationships recognize, again, friendships are romantic. A healthy relationship recognizes, our time together in the big picture is limited. So let's make the most of it. Let's show up as our best self. Let's bring forward the best within each other. Let's be a place where that gets invited forward in our interactions with each other. Because, I think that when we behave badly often, what we're doing is that we're imagining we just have infinite time. So that I can squander this right now. But let's show up as the people we really, really want to be. And so I have often heard people say, well, I can't find a healthy relationship. And so here's the thing. That's because you have to first be healthy yourself. You say, well, I can't find somebody who wants to be with me. And that's because you don't want to be with you. Heal that, right? and see what happens. When you get that healed, see what happens. People say, well, I can't find somebody who treats me right. That's because you don't treat you right, or you don't believe that you deserved to be treated right. Heal that and see what actually shows up for you. See, part of being healthy is recognizing that I'm effective at healing challenges, at healing difficulties, at solving problems. I think that's part of it, is knowing that, well, yes, of course, things will come up, and together we will work through them. Because that happens in life. In the course of a long life, in the course of long friendships, of course, problems will arrive, even with your best friends. But your commitment to be together as friends is bigger than the problem, and you both bring enough to the table that you figure out how to solve that. So part of being healthy is recognizing, what, I can solve challenges. I'm good at seeming problems, And I think and see, this is the piece that I think is so interesting, is that really, I think from the spiritual perspective, that all of our difficulties give us the opportunity to say, this is my chance. This is my opportunity to bring forth the very best that is within me. Let's pray. So we turn our attention inward now for a moment to recognize that we are surrounded and filled with a presence of God's love, God's light, God's understanding. It expresses through us perfectly. And I claim for us today that same principle, power, and presence expresses in all of our relationships. So first of all, I let each and every one of us be off the hook today, that our relationships are not a failure if there's difficulty. That I know for each and every one of us as spiritual beings connected to an infinite source, that we are extraordinary when it comes to meeting challenges, that we are great problem solvers. And I also claim for each and every one of us that we do not project onto anyone that they should give us or be to us what we are not willing to give to or be to ourselves. I know that it all starts from within for each and every one of us. And the principle is, as within, so without. So I know that as we are changed at depth, that our experience in life is also changed. So I claim for us that the best within us comes forward in all of our relationships. Friendships and work relationships, and with our neighbors and parents and children, and those that we are most intimate with. I claim that the best in us shows up on a consistent basis. Taking a deep breath, I know that it's never about the other person. It's always about me. And I take full responsibility for that and healing my stuff. I accept this for each and every one of us today. So we let our prayer be a blessing in the world, particularly those situations that look so difficult and scary and horrible in the world. That we stand as the ones who know that God's light is right there. God's love is there. That a healing at a profound level is taking place beyond all of the appearances. That there's a problem that's being solved, an opportunity for growth and understanding and harmony, an opportunity for more of God to be revealed in the world. We bless our church. We bless all churches everywhere, synagogues and temples and mosques and ashrams, all paths to God. And I'm certain that we're blessed. We're all raised up in consciousness by being together. And so with an open, gracious, full heart, I give thanks, and so it is. Together we all say, Amen.